most important globals. So I would love to see globals on this map because I feel like they're very, very strong, but maybe that is something where it's not in Sonic's hero pool. I mean, he has really showed up on that Jaina and that Genji, but maybe he can't. Oh, and look at, I guess Fnatic just doesn't want global. Or I mean, that could be them banning the Dahaka because they want to pick up globals later on, or maybe they just recognize that Glau's been playing well on that hero and they don't want to have to deal against globals.
Yeah, they may actually want to get that Blaze early here or even that Maiev. But if there is a false set coming in, we have seen Mane in the past when he worked with Dignitas, he did play the hero occasionally. But yeah, I think false set's kind of just completely frowned upon now here in Europe. There was a couple of weeks where we tried to get him to work and it just would not happen. I think Quack is the only one that got a couple of wins in the HGC season. So might actually have just pure team fight for these teams.
I'm tickled with the idea of Gale Force esports player suggesting globals.
Global Force esports, as they would like to call us. Like, globals are so good, man. It's just like tried and true, such a strong strategy, right? Like being able to take a 4v5 team fight or out macro people is always going to be good. And you know, playing as a global team, you know, we would play against Fnatic, right? Like, and we actually learned a lot about how to play globals from getting dumpstered by Fnatic at a couple internationals, right? So I just have a lot of respect for how they play around the heroes. That being said, I do feel like Quack is such an instrumental part of that. I mean, you've seen how his false set is so much better than everyone else's, and so much of that is the way that he manipulates the map and forces those 4v5. So they probably won't go into it. The Maiev has been banned. I'm curious to see if they go something like a Genji. I mean, they have shown that they like the Genji. There's like Genji, Blaze, Tyrael.
I'd enjoy the Malfurion.
Yeah,
so as well, kind of capable to bring out the Tracer if they want later on. Not necessary, but now that Maiev is off the table, Tyrael becomes, I mean, it's not like he's a bad hero. It just goes from like a must pick to, you know, you might be able to let him through this slot. Either way, I feel like it's probably going to be those, but also we've seen these teams value that a little bit less, especially the Blaze, than the remainder of the tournament, but Malfurion will be the choice here for Fnatic.
Blaze for Tempo Storm. Will we get the Tracer for the second pick? Fans already shown it in the series.
Interesting that that pick was that fast, but the second one is not going to be locked in that quick for Tempo Storm. It's just not a trend you see that much.
I like the Genji. I do. Because you mentioned the Tracer, and I wasn't super impressed with their Tracer play. I feel like Genji is a hero that Fan is much more comfortable and stronger on, so I really am excited to see this coming out for Tempo Storm. It also opens up the chance to go Abathur, right? If you ever have a Genji, the opponent always has to either ban, pick, or be very scared and play against Genji Abathur.
I will say, Tempo Storm hasn't played a lot of Blaze, and when they do, it is usually Caterpillar. So it's very likely that we still see Glaurung on more of another type of melee assassin, and that might be something that Fnatic is hoping for with that Dahaka ban, just because in the last game, Glaurung was a little more killable for Fnatic, a lot more gankable on that squishier Malthael instead of the Dahaka.
Making him a lot more vulnerable and kind of catering towards what a lot of the European teams, when looking at Glaurung as a player, oftentimes relied on, right? Is especially when you transition to that solo lane, is finding a way to catch him off guard and hoping that he is not playing safe enough. Fnatic, though, commit to an ETC. That, not too surprising. He's slowly climbing in priority through the tournament. And then the Grey Mane to back it up. Sonic was able to show that he's pretty effective, especially with the Eyes in the Dark build. That skirmish, because it's such an early talent and it's so capable to anything point and click oriented, it's actually a really good talent on this type of map like for Sky Temple. What it can do in terms of trades, we even saw it come to light on a team fight on bottom, like how much time it buys you. It's pretty neat there. So I like to see the Grey Mane a little bit higher here for Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect to see Tempo Storm prioritize this Malthael if it isn't banned out by Fnatic. We've talked about how that is a hero that Glaurung really, really likes, and it'll probably be good into whatever hero that he'll be playing in the solo lane. Probably something like a Tyrael, something like a Leoric, something with a high HP pool where Malthael's, you know, trait gets a lot of value.
What do you guys think about Zeratul for Glaurung? It's been a while since we've seen it.
I think it's possible. I think if it's going to be the case, it would probably be at the later stages.
Yeah.
I mean, North America has definitely shown that it's not out of their arsenal. I think that we've already got, what, 2 to 3 games for Mac on that hero. I mean, by the way, Mac put on a clinic on the hero, like very much showing that it is viable within this meta. The Uther ban, I think, is very well thought out there for Fnatic. It's very safe to rid that. Even though we've been talking about how effective Rhaegar is going to be, or has been, especially with things like Blaze, the Divine Shield on the Genji is something that's way too problematic, and removing an opportunity to get any kind of easy disengage from ETC and any mosh pit threats is I think is a safe play.
Yeah, and I do think it is interesting that Tempo Storm actually opted into banning out the Abathur, because generally the team with the Genji, the opponent has to be very afraid of that Abathur Genji duo. So I guess that's something that they didn't want to have to deal with, or they didn't want to have to pick in the 3-4 because it is a good composition for Fnatic. So Tyrael Rhaegar actually coming out for Tempo Storm. The Rhaegar that you were mentioning, Trickslayer, I do really like it here. The Tyrael as well, I mean, they are pretty much all in on teamfight here.
I think they had to take the Tyrael too, because Fnatic would have picked it up. EGC would have gone on that top lane or gone stage dive. They can switch it out if they need to. And Tyrael with the Greymane Malfurion just powerful in its own way. So now Fnatic thinking about moving into probably another warrior, trying to figure out what they want to get. I actually am looking at this, and I'm wondering, would Stitches be a little too crazy here? Stitches into a Malfurion route? Decent damage from Greymane?
I mean, it looks good, but my only issue is who's your hook target, right? Because Genji's not necessarily that good, Tyrael's not necessarily that good, same with Blaze. So it'd be Rhaegar, their range. I actually really like the Yorick, because they don't really have tank killers, right?
Interesting. I like Arthas. I think out of all the frontliners, just finding a way to try and survive long enough to be able to get value one post sanctification and the threat there, be able to slow down the threat. But at the same time, I don't look at that and I go, this is clean pick. I think the frontliner is going to struggle.
Well, we're getting a reset comp. Lean me.
We were all wrong. We all said 3 different picks, and they went with the Beetle.
And I think now that we see the Beetle picked up, I like that a lot more. The counter momentum it can provide, it then deterring that synergy between Tyrael and Genji. If Blaze becomes too problematic with the bunker, stacking with sanctification, I like the pickup a lot there, and it's a go-to for Breeze. So it's something they've been playing for a long while.
Well, I was going to say, I really like the fact that they do pick the Nubrak and they take away the cocoon counter, right? Yeah. Disintegrate generally is the answer to a Nubrak cocooning someone. In Tempo Storm, look at their composition. They probably wanted that Leeming. They might be kicking themselves in the butt for picking the Rhaegar over the Leeming in that 3-4, because double reset with Genji is a very scary composition. And now, what do they pick for web break? Maybe Tychus, Tracer? I mean, those are not as good options as the Leeming would have been.
Tempo Storm is thinking about it for the final pickup.
Is it Zera?
I think it's finally its time.
Really? I think it's a little bit too weird. At this point, I feel like it's just going to be a death ball all
Just let him go aggressive on Leeming.
I don't know.
So who would play what then? I would probably be fan on Tyrael.
I just want to get wild with it. Come on.
Murky? But,
I think it would have to be fan on Tyrael if that's the case.
Oh.
But no, this is
Tempo with the false tag.
Yeah, Glau has played one Blaze game through part 1, showing that they're going to continue their flexibility. What do we think about the fall stat? As a disengage, bringing it to Fnatic there?
I mean, so the issue is they don't have a web counter, but I do like the fall side because there's not very much threat on him. At the beginning of this draft, we talked about how good globals are. So Tempo Storm is going to have one global, and Fnatic will probably have one post 10, right? They'll have that stage dive. But they do end up going mosh pit. They do have Gust to interrupt the cancel. So I think the fall stat as a whole is a pretty solid pick. Fills in a lot of those gaps that they needed, which would be like global as well as mosh counter if they do end up going for that. But they have no cocoon cancel, right? So I'm just really afraid.
I would have liked to see something more like a Tychus in that type of situation. Not only is it defensive, can deal with the front line we see on the other side, pretty good at being able to deal with the cocoon as well. It just feels like the fall set, not terrible. You can definitely see the thought process, global disengage, but I can't help but feel like his health pool is a little bit too low in this meta, and it's a team fight oriented map. Resets early on his level 1 with Leeming. I'm starting to like Fnatic just purely off the fall set at last pick.
Yeah. Sure. Let's get into predictions.
Third time's a charm. Tempo Storm is going to take it home here. Yes, I do not think their draft is as good, but I feel like they are the better team today.
Trick?
I think the room for error with fall set is too minimal, and there could be mistakes that happen pretty aggressively. Fnatic can get a catch, and I think this is where they get their win and start to make the comeback.
I'm going with Fnatic as well. I think the fall set might be a little bit too risky, and Fnatic is shown to be insane in team fighting, and I'm hoping they can rely on that.
Tempo Storm has been doing a great job with the macro game. I think that'll continue. So I'll stick with you over there to the ends of the desk. Tempo Storm for me, too. And finally, do we see, has it swapped over all the way to Tempo Storm's favor? No, but
still
just
that's so impressive to fans.
And you know what? I think that's just about as close as it's going to get for this event, and that's okay. Let's send it back over to the casting desk again. Fandy and Caldor for game 3.
It's actually pretty impressive that Tempo Storm is up 2-0 and chat still doesn't really believe in them. But they've been playing great and they have the lead. All they need is one more map win, and we're going to find out if Sky Temple is the one when they can take down Fnatic with a 3-0.
I mean, Fnatic, as I was sort of saying, we've got them with not, I guess, the best track record thus far for this year on Sky Temple. However, the draft, I am in love with it on the side of Fnatic. And I mean, let's go ahead, let's make some noise. This is going to be their best chance to win this one. If we can get a round of applause for Fnatic, we've got Breeze playing a Nubarak, Sonic on that Grey main, Smexy playing Malfurion, Benny on that ETC, and Mene playing Li Ming.
And on the left side, of course, we're seeing currently Tempo Storm. Well, they have Glorong on Blaze, Cattle on Tyrael, Psalm on Genji, June on Rega, and Fan is going to play Falsa this time. With Fnatic on the right side of the map. And at this point already with a bit of a rotation down to the bottom, giving up vision at the top of the map.
Yep, they don't have any interest in that. In fact, I look to think that they're going to be trying to take down an early tower, see if they can get experience lead. However, the rotations by Tempo Storm are good to make sure that that does not happen.
Bit of tower pressure here at the bot lane, but as he said, immediately Tempo Storm is present, so they already saw this one coming. And it's going to be interesting to see how much of an impact Falstad will have in the setup that we're seeing from Tempo Storm. It's definitely a hero that hasn't had too much success in Europe throughout 2018. Has a lot of trouble with all the burst damage that comes out and all the mobility heroes that we have in Heroes of the Storm right now. But Tempo Storm might just be able to pull it off here.
I mean, if all you're going to be using Falstad for is that global presence, yeah, that's great. But we have heroes that can do it better in terms of that Dahaka. And we also saw Glauron, he was utilizing that Malthael last game, almost like the Dahaka as well. So in terms of if you want to keep up with the experience, he's good. But where he's weak is he's just so squishy, and that means that he's the ideal dive target.
One of the things that really stands out to me when I look at Tempo Storm's draft is the boss control they have. They have Sanctification, they have Mighty Gust, and they have Bunker as well. So everything on that setup really screams, hey, we want to fight around the boss. Whenever you take a boss fight, we're going to be there. We're going to fly in with Falstad, Gust you away. The Sanctification is going to be on the ground. We have Bunker. So there's a lot of potential in these close quarters around the boss area. And Fnatic has to respect that heading into the mid and late game.
Absolutely. I mean, that just once again then shows for Fnatic they have to win a team fight very decisively before they can even think about boss, because there's just too much control that Tempo Storm have to make sure that that does not become something that they can take for free.
Now, Fnatic has done a great job in the previous games in team fights, but at the end of each of these games, Tempo Storm came out victorious. And now Fnatic has to start that comeback right here on Sky Temple, which for the longest time in 2017 was the Fnatic stronghold. Nobody was able to beat them there. They famously took maps of Dignitas in several grand finals and also crowned themselves the mid-season champion of 2017 in Sweden on Sky Temple in the last remaining game of the best of 7 they played against Dignitas. But in 2018, not really their best map. So Fnatic now has to come back in with a sub-layer, with a new shot caller, and show that they're still able to take wins here.
I mean, it's a great point that you bring up as well. As I was saying, Sky Temple, not the best map of choice. But if they can manage to bring this one, it's almost like that old Fnatic that's breaking through. They still have the strategy there. We've got the core 3 team members on the team. It's just, as we said, for this year, they have not been finding much success on Sky Temple.
First temples are also activating in just a few seconds, so we're going to see if it's going to head into that traditional split that we have between the top and the mid. And also just to put a couple of numbers here, Fnatic so far on Sky Temple in 2017, in Europe at least, played the map twice, and they lost both of these games. So they have to really turn this around now if they want to have a chance to move on to meet Dignitas in the winner bracket final. Right now, we have them focusing on the top temple, whereas Tempo Storm has taken position around the middle of the map.
Yep, they're happy to trade for this one out, and then also leaving that Falstad there to make sure that he can still continuously soak the minion wave that's coming his way. What I do like as well on the side of Tempo Storm is that they're also making sure that they have Glaurung in that middle lane soaking up with that Blaze.
Yeah, also a couple of talent adjustments, especially when you come more from the European angle. On level 4, we have oil dispersal now taken on Glaurung's side, so for the increased oil spill area. Going a little bit counter to what we normally see in Europe. And talking about the European team, Sonic goes down. Sam and June go in for the first blood and take down Greymane.
I was just looking at Sonic's build as well, and I noticed that he took the Insatiable, looking to see as well what sort of build he has. Also opted for the Wizard and Duelist this game around, so looking to see if he can get those stacks and then really increase that damage output, which synergizes very, very well with Li Ming. We already said going into this, they have very high burst potential.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential here for even Cursed Bullet coming in. If you want to focus on the front line, you could try and lead with a bullet, follow with a Li Ming combo after a good root or stun on their side. Also noteworthy that we're seeing Swift Retribution taken by Cattle. So Tyrael always with a level 7, the Reciprocate going over in terms when you don't have a lot of attack damage or attack damage dealers on. We have also in this case now the Swift Retribution for the movement speed, the chase potential. So a lot of aggression coming out of Tempo Storm in terms of their talent choices.
It's very, very strong. And I mean, they're also looking to see if they can force any fights because it's very, very dive heavy for themselves, having that Blaze, having that Tyrael to lead the path for Genji.
Breeze, by the way, is doing a pretty fantastic job getting the stacks for his prog rogue here. Benny, that is, actually. We have him on 11 stacks already, so just 9 away from completing the quest talent. But Tempo Storm has once again taken the lead in experience, and that is going to become extremely important once that we're talking about the second temple phase, which will be at the bottom of the map.
I mean, typically speaking, when we do see the European teams, they're generally able to decisively get that early experience lead and then use that to snowball. So this is already why I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Fnatic. They can play the slower game, yes, but Tempo Storm, they've shown they have such a good early game and they will utilize it if you let them have it.
Tempo's also really looking for kills here. They once again jumped on Greymane, but Breeze on Nubarak was ready to help him out here. And this is what we've been talking about earlier, boss control. That's what Tempo Storm wants. And in this case, that early level 10 is really helping them. So they are trying to build up as much momentum as they can, and there's absolutely nothing Fnatic can do about this. They cannot possibly engage into a 5 versus 5 without heroic abilities.
Yeah, I'm having a flashback of the same strategy used yesterday. Once you get that level 10, if it is commanding enough of a lead, the enemy team just can't really respond. They have to give that boss away for free. It's just too dangerous to try and contest. It's better to then just take your losses and soak it up. But what that does is it nets you even more experience and sets you up so well for that bottom temple phase.
It's a pretty disastrous situation for Fnatic, but they get at least some value at the top lane where ETC is pushing. And now they have their own level 10 available, and that gives us stage dive. So they could still try and force a fight here at the bot lane, but they sacrificed their own fountain already. And even though it's a really early boss that can be bursted down so much easier and didn't scale yet, we still have the damage done. Fnatic, they still want to fight though. ETC keeps himself in the shadows up at the top as Fnatic is starting to invade the bottom temple.
I like this. Tempo Storm, they pull back until Psalm's with the team, making sure that they're not going to force a fight. One that they can't have, but that jet propulsion is very well. The bunker does come out by Glaurung.
Yeah, they're trying to go for the bunker immediately. Also, Greymane hasn't really gotten too many stacks yet. We currently see 3 stacks on his level 7 talent on the Wizened Duelist. There's very little that he can do with that yet in terms of damage output. We have 15 stacks on Prog Rock for Benny, so he is going to try and complete this as soon as he can so that they have some team fight potential here. And Fnatic has taken a bit of a beating, but they are still in experience reach at least. 1 level behind of Tempo Storm.
Tempo Storm would be looking to get level 13 before they engage again because they're so close, working their way up, filling that bar. Fnatic sense that this would be the chance that they want to try and fight. You can see the way Breeze is postured. If they are rotating into that bottom lane, he will be happy to try and engage for them.
Yeah, one more thing that we have to point out here is that Genji went for X-Strike, and we have seen that now a couple of times here at the Western Clash. There's a couple of reasons, of course, for it. Oftentimes you see it when the Genji player feels that he's going to be under a lot of pressure in the fights and cannot really get value out of the Dragon Blade. We have seen it as a great escape tool. And also with Anubarak on the other side and Cocoon, at this point, he just feels that he doesn't get enough value out of the talent. So he plays for the survivability and makes sure that with X-Strike he has another tool available.
I mean, across the board on Tempo Storm, you can see there's utility ults all around, and that's going to help them better control what they want to do in terms of a team fight and in terms of map control. So as you said, very, very smart. And if you're feeling pressured like that as well, it's just giving him that safety.
Yeah, Glaurung wants to force a fight here, and they're starting to go in. Breeze needs to be cautious, and he's using his Burrow Charge to move out. They are at a talent disadvantage now, and that is the main reason. So we have at the bot lane, or the off lane, the entire time this battle between Falstad and ETC. Stage dive versus the fly-in, trying to make sure that you can just soak the experience and then use the global to join the fight. But Tempo Storm, with the format that they're running, is doing a fantastic job at pressuring Fnatic whenever they have an advantage. Level 10, to take the boss. Level 13, start to set that push up around the Night Camp to the top and use that aura, that spell aura, to your advantage.
Indeed it does, but look at this fight now. Very, very aggressive positioning on the side of Tempo Storm.
Level 13 not there yet. Tempo wants to force the fight here. Another Temple activating in 5, but Fnatic holds onto the structures for now. And this is one of the most important things for them. The structural advantage on the map is absolutely crucial since the objective attacks structures directly. But Fnatic has already lost 2 of their forts.
They have. This game is pretty much on a timer because of the way the objective works. And that's exactly right, Kaldor. You prioritize your structures so much, and that's why Abathur can be so vital on a map like this. The ability to take Mule and heal up that damage means that the objective can be sort of nullified to some extent.
Now, Prog Rock is by now already completed for ETC, and they have the level 13 talent, so they would be happy to offer some fights at this point. Fine is doing, by the way, an absolutely exceptional job with all the side soaking to also get stacks for Seasoned Marksman. We're not even 10 minutes into the game, and he's sitting at 28 extra damage. And that is absolutely brutal if you plug in the Giant Killer as the additional damage challenge on 13. So the front line of Fnatic is definitely going to have to be very careful because they'll be on the receiving end of a ton of damage.
Well, that's Fan really building up that foul stat for the end game. And what I am seeing though on the side of Sonic, still being a little bit worried. He's only got 4 stacks on that Wiz Duels. What this indicates to me is that he's not feeling confident enough to go in and get those basic attacks off in order to stack. He's just not feeling as though he has that advantage. And a lot of that reason is because they've always been down at that talent tier advantage. The windows that they have to fight are so slim.
Yeah, they had very few opportunities to actually make anything happen here. Gust being used as Fan plays it safe. They won 16, and Tempo Storm is just playing this smart. The entire game, they are not willing to commit to any fights. They know that they have a 1-level advantage. At this point, it's increased to nearly 2, but the entire time, they're just backing off. They wait until they have level 10, grab a boss. They wait until level 13, try to force a few more fights. Don't have 16 yet, don't fight, just back off, disengage, make sure that you use Mighty Gust to keep them at bay, and then once you have the lead, you go in again. Extremely smart play by Tempo Storm, and it must frustrate the hell out of Fnatic at this point.
It does, they're just being run ragged around the map. Benny here, forced to use the stage dive to get away. That's the anticipation coming out.
Boss play.
Being called out by Fnatic now.
Ooh, not so sure about that one. This could be rough. Already Blaze on the way, but Fnatic feels forced to try something here. The problem is that Gust is up in another 8, and Sanctification is still on. Fnatic with the attempt to sneak it, but they're talent down, and this looks like trouble. But here comes the kill against Tyrael. Fnatic leads with a kill. Can they get it, though? Can they get the boss, and can they win here? Fan had to use Gust already. Tyrael is gone. No Sanctification. And how does Fnatic do it? Game after game after game, they have to fight against the talent advantage and win the fights.
And they do. Fnatic, that was huge. That impact by picking off the Tyrael. I was so worried for them. That's why I was like, oh no, this is going to get messy. It was so clean. The Tyrael was popped just like that. And immediately Tempo Storm were like, hang on, Sanctification. We really do need that.
And Nubarak's Ancestral was absolutely on point, shutting June down, and then the Smex God drops the silence, goes in with a Twilight Dream, and all of a sudden Tempo Storm falls apart, and what looked like a Hail Mary attempt of Fnatic is working out for them. They drop the bottom keep, they get the drop bottom fort, they get the entire experience here, and now they're in 16.
Exactly. Just like that, once again, propelled right back in. It's still anybody's game. You cannot down count or put Fnatic out because they are showing that if they can see an opportunity, a lot of that was enabled. We thought Bad Benny, you know, oh, you had to direct 2 people, but the stage dive showing so much value.
Yeah, at this point, Breeze again. Okay, Root's already on the ground. Maynard flanking from the side. He wants Fan. Maynard wants Fan. He sees Falstad. Doesn't force the engage there, but you can at least see the thought process. Trying to stay in the back because he knows that the bird is going to be in the back line, trying to get shielded by Tyrael and Blaze. And if Maynard gets a clean shot at Fan, that bird is going to fall.
Roast bird. But I was just kind of liking that little exchange there. Sam as well, just trying to look for the flanky pass. Mene as well, also on the flank, and they both just were like stuck with that sort of drive-by. But neither team wanting to commit too much into this just yet.
Yeah, there comes again Glorang from the side on Blaze, trying to see if he can go in with the jet propulsion. The oil spills already slowing them down and going for the damage output as well. Cattle commits and goes in, so does Sam. Here comes the Sanct and the Gust at the same time. A bit of anti-synergy on the side of Tempo Storm, not communicating that properly and getting little value out of it as Fnatic starts to try and punish it by a quick cocoon.
Yeah, this is Fnatic's best chance of winning now. So many defensive ultis are now on cooldown. Ancestral Heal does connect, it's good, but they are all now locked up by the Twilight Dream.
June really good with the Ancestral. The X-Strike comes through. The counter kill against Blaze as Anubarak is already dead. Stage dive comes in as well. Benny is moving in. Sonic tries to go for the kill and he gets it. Rhaegar is down. Sonic on 12 stacks at this point and he wants more. They get Genji and Fnatic is all of a sudden back to business.
Sonic bares his fangs and he's saying, these are the stacks that I'm looking to build, ending that one now with 13. We can see it just jumped so quickly. We were saying we're a bit worried, he's only got 4, but as long as he doesn't die, that is so much extra damage that he's now going to be outputting.
Yeah, also talking about stacks and damage output, Fan right now with 37 stacks on the season marksman, only 4 away to get the quest completion. He's also the top damage dealer on the side of Tempo Storm with 22,000 hero damage and 113,000 siege damage. On the side of Fnatic, we have Sonic just putting the work in, 22k for himself in hero damage, but Li Ming a little bit better when it comes to clearing out the waves with 110 herself.
I mean, I'm still impressed by Tempo Storm to still get kills out of that when so many defensive ults were down. Still very, very much impressed, but I'm also like, why did you take that fight? I mean, I guess you had to, Blaze was there, but you could have maybe cut your losses, just lost one team member, but they still felt confident enough to fight.
Yeah, I feel if they force the fight on Sanctification, they can make something happen. But as you said, we had the Gust coming in at the same time. Bit of a miscommunication on their part. And then all of a sudden, you're down several ults and you try to re-engage. And they felt forced into it because we had Anubarak quickly heading for the Cocoon. He forced that fight back in. And June, by the way, perfect time on the Ancestral. There was nearly a kill against Blaze once the Cocoon ended, but he kept them in the fight even longer. But Fnatic found the kills regardless.
Really just gave them that second breath, and like I said, how they could still fight after they were down so many heroics. But look at that pressure on the bottom lane. So many siege giants that need to be dealt with. And while all of that was happening, we had Benny happily pushing away in the top lane. Now we can see that experience lead by Fnatic, it is growing because Benny was left unchecked. Fan not being able to clear out that wave just yet.
Fnatic wants the early 20. This time they are the ones who have the experience lead. And they are saying, okay guys, let's play this safe. Let's go for the camp. Try to set some pressure onto the lanes. Get the level 20 talent. Use the Storm talents and move in for it. And I love what Fan does here. Really small, but he has no vision. There's no vision on Fnatic. He doesn't know where they are. He suspects them to be at the camp, but he doesn't know. So he stays extremely safe, makes sure that nobody can gank him, and just waits for the wave. Fnatic now is going to have the level 20s a little bit earlier, but Tempo Storm is still quite close, but Fnatic wants to already set up at the boss.
They do. They're calling them down as well and making sure that it allows Benny to pretty much get that top temple. However, we do see a member over there. There are 2 members now sending that rotation onto Benny once again. That does leave the bottom side free. And generally speaking, that can be quite dangerous with that boss being able in play soon.
Yes, definitely true. And they're already in position here. I'm a little bit surprised that they went all the way up to the top. It felt that Anubarak was trying to make sure that ETC can get away to drop a Cocoon if needed. But now Tempo Storm gives the boss up. They must know 100%, but without level 20, they're just saying take it. Just take it. Even with Sanctification and Mighty Gust, they're just saying, okay, whatever, we're not going to force that fight because if we take it and lose it, then the game is probably going to be over. So Fnatic now has a chance to end the game because with ETC taking the bottom temple, they're taking the keep already. And that boss is marching towards the core.
This is scary stuff. There's also damage going on down, so that's going to be an exposed path to the core.
ETC, it's a bit of bad spots here to force the fight in a close encounter, but here comes the wind tunnel. Fan with a really nice angle, and they're going for Mena. Li Ming is down. Great start for Tempo Storm into the fight. The Iceberg on Smex is keeping him alive a little bit longer, but he gets the Twilight Dream off. The Twilight Dream is doing so much work, but there's no kill. The boss is on the core, and Fnatic just says, screw this. Let's go in and right-click that thing and end the game.
They're going for it right now. Tempo Storm hot on their heels as well. They want to defend their core.
The bird flies in and he's in trouble. Smexy, on the other hand, is also about to die here. They're trying to keep themselves alive for as long as they can. The boss is already about to take the core down and Fnatic is just right-clicking it. Sonic with the damage. Breeze is there and Fnatic, they take the game. They take their first win in the best of 5 series and take down Tempo Storm on Sky Temple.